Welcome to Long Story Short. Today, we are traveling to the deep, sweltering south of the 1930s to dissect Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning masterpiece, To Kill a Mockingbird. Imagine a sleepy, isolated town where everyone knows your name, your family history, and exactly where you belong in the social hierarchy. On the surface, it is a picture of charming, Southern childhood innocence. But just beneath the front porches and the tire swings lies a deeply ingrained disease of systemic racism and generational prejudice. We are going to break down exactly how one lawyer's decision to stand up against a town's blind hatred created one of the most important pieces of American literature ever written. Long story short, To Kill a Mockingbird is not just a coming-of-age story. It is a brilliant, devastating examination of the death of innocence and a masterclass on what true, quiet courage actually looks like. First, let's establish the world. The story takes place in the fictional tired old town of Maycomb, Alabama, right in the middle of the Great Depression. We experience everything through the eyes of our narrator, a young, fiercely independent tomboy named Jean Louise Finch, better known as Scout. Scout lives with her older brother Jem, their black housekeeper and mother figure, Calpurnia, and their widowed father, Atticus Finch. Atticus is a prominent local lawyer, but more importantly, he is the moral compass of the entire novel. He teaches Scout and Jem the ultimate lesson of empathy early on, telling them that you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. In the first half of the book, the children's biggest concern is a neighborhood urban legend. Scout, Jem, and their summer friend Dill are completely obsessed with their reclusive neighbor, Arthur Boo Radley. Boo has not been seen outside his dilapidated house in decades. The town gossips claim he is a violent, bloodthirsty monster who eats raw squirrels. The children spend their summers playing terrifying games, trying to lure Boo out of his house. They are blinded by childish rumors, completely failing to see the actual, real-world monster growing in their own town. That real-world monster rears its head when Atticus Finch is appointed to represent a black man named Tom Robinson. Tom has been accused of raping Mayella Ewell, a young white woman. The Ewell family lives behind the town garbage dump. They are considered the absolute lowest tier of Maycomb's white society. The father, Bob Ewell, is a vicious, ignorant, abusive drunk. But in a deeply segregated, fiercely racist society of 1930s Alabama, the word of the lowest white man is still taken as absolute truth over the word of an honest, hardworking black man. The town immediately turns on the Finch family. Scout and Jem are mercilessly bullied at school, and Atticus is labeled a blood traitor. But Atticus refuses to back down. He knows he cannot win this case. The deeply prejudiced, all-white jury will never acquit Tom Robinson. But Atticus takes the case anyway, telling Jem that real courage is not a man with a gun in his hand. Real courage is when you know you are licked before you begin. But you begin anyway and see it through, no matter what. Before we walk into the Maycomb County Courthouse for the trial of the century, if you want to experience Harper Lee's incredible, warm, and fiercely intelligent prose for yourself, I have linked a full audiobook and physical copy in the description below. Consuming the original text is the absolute best way to feel the emotional weight of Scout's journey from innocence to understanding. For now, let's look at the trial that shatters the town's illusio and ends. The courtroom is sweltering and packed to the rafters. Atticus methodically, brilliantly dismantles the prosecution's case. He proves that Mayella Ewell was beaten severely on the right side of her face, meaning her attacker had to be left-handed. When Bob Ewell takes the stand, Atticus tricks him into writing his name, proving to the entire jury that Bob Ewell is entirely left-handed. Then, Tom Robinson takes the stand. Tom stands up, revealing that his left arm was completely torn apart in a cotton gin accident when he was a boy. It is shriveled and entirely useless. It is physically impossible for Tom Robinson to have committed the crime he is accused of. The truth becomes painfully obvious to everyone in the room. Mayella Ewell, lonely and desperate, made an advance on Tom Robinson. When her abusive father, Bob Ewell, caught her, he beat her savagely. To cover up his own horrific crime and protect his pride, Bob Ewell blamed Tom. But during his testimony, Tom Robinson makes one fatal mistake in the eyes of the Jim Crow South. He admits that he helped Mayella with chores because he felt sorry for her. In 1930s Alabama, a black man feeling pity for a white woman was an unforgivable breach of the social order. Despite the overwhelming, undeniable physical evidence proving Tom's absolute innocence, the all-white jury convicts him. The verdict destroys Jim's faith in humanity. Shortly after, Tom Robinson is shot and killed by prison guards while allegedly trying to escape in a blind panic. You would think winning the trial would be enough for Bob Ewell, but Atticus completely destroyed Ewell's last shred of public dignity on the witness stand. Ewell vows revenge. On Halloween night, as Scout and Jem are walking home in the pitch black through the woods, they are attacked. Bob Ewell lunges at the children with a knife, breaking Jem's arm in the struggle. Suddenly, a mysterious, silent figure emerges from the darkness, pulling Ewell off the children and carrying the unconscious Jem back to the Finch house. When the dust settles, the sheriff discovers Bob Ewell dead in the woods with a kitchen knife stuck in his ribs. Scout looks into the corner of Jim's bedroom and finally sees the man who saved him. It is Arthur Boo Radley. He is not a monster. He is just a painfully shy, gentle man who had been quietly watching over the children for years, leaving them small gifts in the knothole of a tree. Sheriff Heck Tate and Atticus argue on the porch. Atticus believes Jem killed Ewell in self-defense and insists on a trial to maintain the integrity of the law. But Sheriff Tate stubbornly corrects him. Bob Ewell fell on his own knife. Tate knows that Boo Radley killed Bob Ewell to save the children, but dragging the cripplingly shy Boo Radley into the public spotlight to be praised as a hero would be a sin. It would destroy him. Tate famously says, "Let the dead bury the dead." Scout completely understands. She looks at her father and says that exposing Boo would be sort of like shooting a mockingbird. Clears throat. To guarantee an A on your final essay, you need to master 3 foundational symbols from the text. First, the mockingbird. Atticus tells the children early on that it is a sin to kill a mockingbird because they don't do one thing but sing their hearts out for us. They do not destroy gardens or nest in corn cribs. The mockingbird represents ultimate purity and innocence. In this novel, there are 2 distinct mockingbirds, Tom Robinson and Boo Radley. Both are gentle, harmless men who are destroyed or nearly destroyed by the cruelty and prejudice of society. Second, the rabbit dog. In the middle of the novel, a rabid dog named Tim Johnson wanders down the street. The town sheriff hands his rifle to Atticus to shoot the dog, revealing to the children that Atticus was once the deadliest shot in Maycomb. The rabid dog is a direct symbol of the disease of racism infecting the town. Atticus is the only man with the skill, the moral clarity, and the courage to stand in the street and face the madness head on. Third, the dual narrative structure. Harper Lee brilliantly uses Scout as both the child experiencing the events and the adult reflecting back on them. This allows the reader to see the absurd, illogical nature of racism through the innocent, uncorrupted eyes of a child, while also providing the profound, tragic understanding of an adult looking back at history. The ultimate takeaway for your finals? To Kill a Mockingbird teaches us that true empathy requires us to look past the superficial rumors and the societal prejudices of our time. At the very end of the novel, Scout stands on Boo Radley's front porch and looks out at the town from his exact perspective, finally understanding the man she used to fear. If you have a paper or a test coming up, watching a summary gets you the plot, but reading Harper Lee's actual prose is where you master the material. Click the Amazon or Audible link in the description to get the full version of To Kill a Mockingbird right now. That is the long story short. Please like and subscribe for more literature breakdowns. See you in the next one.